What you're going to see today is some of the largest, most deadly and devastating military machinery was designed and produced during that time for an ultimate showdown that really would have been Armageddon. And in Canada, this is the only museum where you can see this type of equipment up close. The ground is going to shake. We're going to roll hundreds of tons of military hardware in front of you. But you're going to see vehicles that are still in conflicts all over the world today. It's the soldiers who serve who are the ones who fear war the most. And it is truly our hope that one day machines like this and wars will only exist in museums like this. Marshal, roll out the tanks. Both gunners tracking their targets on the move. Look at the incredible speed of that Leo team. Both of them behind hills now. Well, there's the final.
As you hang out, you're going to witness the first ever pumpkin crush by a tank.
Of the Second World War. And the Soviet Union had tens of thousands of those left over. But all the lessons that they had learned during the Second World War, fighting huge German tanks like Tigers and Panthers, before the war even ended, they were already developing the next generation of tanks. And they came up with the T-54, and that's what you see here in front of you. It had a massive weapon, a 90mm main weapon, so it could take out anything from 1945, 1946, and was definitely going to be able to take out anything that the Allies were producing at the time. Now, massive weapon. Also look at there, you have the crew commander with a massive, almost 50 caliber machine gun, Dishka there to support. That's an anti-aircraft weapon, and also to provide support to their Soviet infantry. And just so you know, there's nothing mechanically wrong with that T-54. Soviet tanks just do that, okay? Even the T-72. This is the M551 Sheridan light tank and infantry support vehicle. But the Sheridan was very experimental at the time. Unlike the T-54, it didn't have hardened armor. It actually has aluminum armor, which is the exact same type of armor that is on the M113 armored personnel carrier. So it's not meant to fight other tanks. It's meant to give the infantry in these carriers additional firepower and support. And look at the firepower it has. It has a massive 155mm main weapon. It can technically take out another tank, but with its light armor, it would definitely want to get out of Dodge as soon as possible. The crew commander up top has a 50 caliber machine gun. But also notice these large things on the side. Those are smoke dischargers. Because it's a light tank, it's fast, but it's lightly armored. If it did come up against a T-55, it could create like a ship in the First World War. It could create this huge smoke screen around it so that it could get out of Dodge and to safety. Marshal, send out the M60. So weighing in at over 50 tons, this is what they came up with. They needed a bigger weapon. It's a 105mm main weapon. And that became the NATO standard. So the Soviets, their doctrine was to defeat the West with mass. they mass-produced those very simple tanks like the T-54, 55. And America was not going to be able to catch up. So they wanted to have a tank that could take out 5 to 10 of those Soviet tanks and could take many hits and rounds. So they sacrificed a lot of their speed and maneuverability to make almost a movable fortress. And this is the M60. They deployed these in Germany and an armored wall with their allies just in case the Soviets did attack. Countries like Canada had to economize what we could spend our money on. We did purchase lots of tanks and had a lot of tanks in the field, but what else could we do to help against that Soviet threat? And one of the ideas was the TUA. So here is an armored personnel carrier, which is not designed to carry the troops. It's designed to carry missiles that are fired by this device here. You see your driver, you see your crew commander, and in the back of the vehicle there actually be another crew of 2. And this gave Canada the capability of giving anti-tank deterrence without spending a ridiculous amount of money on tanks that we couldn't afford due to the size of our country. Marshal, send out the Leopard. Our new allies, the Germans. This is a German-built Leopard main battle tank. The Leopard is a Panzer, but it's a late 20th century Panzer. All of the lessons and designs that they had from the Second World War, the West Germans started building this main battle tank. They had a very different philosophy from the Soviets and also from the Americans. The Americans had that massive M60. It was slow, it was heavy, it was almost 50 tons. Where the Leopard, just like the T-55, is just over 40 tons. They sacrificed armor for speed. So the Leopard main battle tank is still known as one of the fastest main battle tanks. The Germans looked and said, in a tank battle, he who sees and hits first is going to win. And these were delivered to Canada in 1978. And you see this is based on a Leopard 1A3 in Canadian service. It was called the Leopard C1. They're very quick. Canadians served on these until the 1990s in Germany with our allies. And they were not deployed in combat, and this is surprising, until the 21st century, when they were used to support Canadian troops in Afghanistan. And Canadians, roll out. And now for the final nation we're going to look at, and then we'll get to the finale of today's show. So Britain had been in the game of building tanks and armored vehicles for a very long time. So unlike Canada and other NATO nations, they weren't going to purchase American or German or other allied equipment. They proudly built their own for their army. So the armor on the Chieftain. It's 7.5 inches thick of armor plate. It's revolutionary. It's so sloped that with the hatch down, the driver is laying in a sling so that they can have that sloped armor, which then turns that 7.5 inches to an effective 17 inches of armor plate. But nope, the British will not be outdone again. They're not going to use the standard NATO 105 round. Look at the size of this 120 millimeter main weapon. Larger gun, bigger armor. In the early years, it did have some teething problems with its engine, obviously under all of that weight. But this was the most powerful main battle tank of the 1960s and into the 1970s. The last thing about the Chieftain, this 120 millimeter main weapon still holds the record for the longest tank-to-tank kill in history. And it happened during the 1990-91 Gulf War. So this gun had a confirmed kill on a Soviet T-55 main battle tank at almost 5 kilometers. Now, just to put that in perspective for you who are on the bleachers, if you look to the north, you see those big towers going up, those big condo towers with the cranes on top of them. I checked on the map, they're 5 kilometers away. Marshal, Marshal, send the Armageddon Parade. Did anyone feel the bleachers shake a little bit? Yeah? All right. I want to thank you for your support of this museum, for coming out to Oshawa to Tank Saturday. It's stuff that you guys do, right? Following us on social media, leaving a positive review on Facebook, Google, TripAdvisor. That keeps these tanks rolling. That keeps this experience alive for others to experience. So on behalf of all the volunteers, thank you to you. I hope I'll see you in May for grab a poster for Tank Saturdays 2024. This is Jeremy signing off, and thank you for supporting the Ontario Regiment Museum.
We had a great time at the Ontario Regiment Museum.
It was so cool learning about all the tank and tank battles.
See you at the next adventure.
Bye.
Let's see.